Hi there. This video will describe how to create a Lego 1x1 block through the use of additive modeling with some of the modeling tools in Maya. So we're going to focus on things like the extrude and then move, rotate, and scale with basic modeling tools from a base cube. The previous video talked about how to do subtractive modeling with Boolean and then using remesh and retopologize to correct the geometry back into all quads. The second method, we're going to use a base cube and start with only quads and just adjust and edit those quads through the use of extrude and move, rotate, and scale. So it's just a different way to create models. Let me move these out of the way from the previous video. You can go back to the previous video to look at more examples from subtractive method. So I'm going to create a cube and start the same way. I'm going to start with a base object that has a height of 1.5. And then I'm still going to go back through and do subdivision width is 2, subdivision depth is 2. And then the difference is I'm not going to combine objects together with Boolean and try to retopologize the geometry in a clean way. I'm just going to use the modeling toolkit and some basic tools here to get some refined forms by adding the geometry to this base form. Alright, so I'm going to be using primarily the extrude and then move, rotate, and scale. So with my two subdivisions on each side, I'm going to select these top faces. And I really know I'm going to need, I'm just planning this out as I go, I know I'm going to need a top cylinder and a bottom cylinder. So I'm going to go down here and select both the top and bottom faces. And I'm going to use the extrude tool. So if I click extrude, it gives me a manipulator that is specific to extrude. It allows me to kind of move or even scale these faces in. I'm actually going to undo that down and we'll extrude again. So I only want to have one extrude right now, and I can use the manipulator, but I'm actually just going to get the scale tool. So if I get the regular scale tool, and I'll make sure I use this green square on the side, and that's going to scale things in kind of an inset evenly on both the top and bottom. You don't have to extrude out multiple different areas, but I'm doing this because I know I need to have a cylinder on the top and the bottom there. Alright, the next thing I want to do is round off this into a cylindrical shape or a circular shape. So I'm going to right click and go into Vertex Mode, and then I'm going to select just the outer vertex points, not the inside lines, but just these 4 points on the top. I'm going to go to the bottom and hold down Shift and select the vertex corner points on the bottom as well. And I'm going to get my scale tool again, and I'm going to use that green square, it's highlighted yellow now, to scale this in just on those two axes. I don't want to scale it in vertically. So as you see, as I start to scale this in, it takes it as a square shape, and now I'm going to get a cylindrical shape here. There you go, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to eyeball it. You can be specific, make sure it's perfect, but I'm going to eyeball it there. Let's see, there's also like a circular tool. If I have like these faces selected, there's a circularize tool that will do the same thing. Make sure it is a perfect circle there. I was pretty darn close in that guess in there, so it's not really doing too much. But the circularize tool is really nice. It's this tool right up here. It's this circularize. So that's a cool tool as well to make something perfect circle. Alright, so for this top section, I'm good to go there. I want to extrude this up for the height of the peg. And I'm going to eyeball it for right now. So I'm going to hit extrude and then get my move tool and move it up. So typically what I'll do with the extrude tool is I'll extrude and then immediately go to move, rotate, or scale and then position it how I want to. So that's good enough for the top peg. The nice part about this method, the additive method, is everything is quads. I don't have to worry about cleaning anything up. Alright, the bottom section, if you recall from the previous video, I need to have an inside box that's kind of pulled up so there's a thickness to the outer shape, and then I need to extrude the cylindrical form down. So we need to come down here and take these faces all the way around and the circular shape, so something like that. Make sure we just have those faces selected and do extrude. Actually what I'm going to do is Yeah, that's fine. We'll come back and adjust this later. So let's do extrude, and we will get our scale tool and scale this in a little bit. So maybe we'll do that. Okay, so that will provide a thickness for me. And then if I hit extrude again, or inset, then if I hit extrude again, then I can get my move tool, move this up. If I go in 4 for wireframe mode, this will be the thickness of the cube here, the final Lego piece. There you go. Now what I did when I actually extruded and scaled it in was made this section kind of smaller than the top peg. So really, if I hit spacebar and go to the top view, I can, with those bottom faces selected, get my scale tool, scale it back out in the Z and the X axis a little bit. There we go, so that should match pretty well. And perhaps I want to have the thickness a little bit wider, so let's scale this out some. There you go, that's good. So this bottom section is scaled wider than the actual peg. And what I'm going to do next is go to extrude and then get the scale tool and then scale this back in so that the peg will fit inside of this extruded shape. So let's go back to the top view and make sure this matches the same size roughly as the peg. There we go. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the outer shell of the cylindrical shape or circular shape. Make sure I don't have anything else selected. Yep. And hit extrude. Okay. Let's get the move tool and move this down. And then now that's going to extrude out the outer kind of cap area of where the peg at the top is going to connect if another piece is snapped to the top of this one. Okay. So what I'll typically do is try to move this down. You can hold down the V key and snap this to the height of the base of it. So if I hold down the V key and with the vertical y-axis just selected, I'm going to drag and then snap it to the height of this bottom shape, so I know that's perfectly aligned. And now we have a very similar shape to the subtractive method that we did in the previous video. The difference is that everything was additive. I just used extrude, move, rotate, and scale. And everything is quad, so I don't have to do any remesh, retopologize, clean up any of that. So some of the last things I can do is hit the D key to go into pivot mode, hold down the V key for vertex to snap to vertex, and snap this to the bottom right corner vertex. Hit the D key to get out of pivot mode. And then now if I hold down X to snap to grid, now I can snap that back up to the grid points. There you go. So if I hit Control D to duplicate and hold down X to snap it and copy it over, you can hit the Control D and see that it will kind of snap, position everything properly. The pegs reach inside of the peg holder area. There you go. One last thing we can do with our final two models, which is this one and this one, so we can move this one out, is either one we can do, it's just a choice to do subtractive or additive. Both can result in pretty good clean models. For the additive one, we could just add more loops to this one and refine them to get a more rounded form. That's not too complex. We can come in here and select one edge, right click and go to edge mode, select one edge and hold down shift and double click on a parallel edge. I'm going to do the same thing this way as well. And add more loops here. So to make it more round, I can click connect. And what connect will do is add a loop in the middle of that perpendicular edge all the way around. And I'm making sure that's going all the way around. Okay, and hit enter. So what I can do is with the select tool, hold down control and drag select to remove the selection outside. Didn't pull an edge loop there. It's okay, we can fix and correct that later. There you go. So we might need to do some manual edge selection. I tried to pull in there. So sometimes we'll have to do some cleanup in case some of these things aren't working. So it is pulling me a vertex, it's just not snapping it or creating the edge there in most of these areas. There you go. So we just got to do a little bit of a cleanup here. So with the multi-cut tool, I can come in here and fix this. If I click on that vertex with the multi-cut, I can hold down the shift key, and the shift key will make sure I put a new vertex directly in the middle. And then I can connect that one, hit enter. Okay, so I can click on that vertex, hold down shift for the middle, connect that there. And then same thing here, click that one, hold down shift for the middle. Missed a little. There you go. We'll finish that, but then we'll come back and do this. So sometimes there is going to be some kind of cleanup that you need to do. There you go. All right. So now what I want to do is select these edges. So if I select that edge right there on that side, hold down shift and double click the edge on the opposite side of it, that just selects the loop in between that. Could do the same thing here. Select that edge, move around to the opposite side, hold down shift and double click. There you go. And then let's do the same thing up here. Select this edge, hold down shift and double click on that one. Select this edge, hold down shift, double click on this one. All right, so now I can get my scale tool, scale that out a little bit to round off that side a little more. See how that makes it a little bit more round? Okay, and we can repeat for the other side. So let's go select this edge, shift select the edge beside that. Whoops. There you go. Same thing here. Select that edge, shift select, double click the edge beside that. And that should select all the way around. So let's do connect again and hit enter. Yep, that did the loops all the way around. So now I can go back and hold down control and deselect the outer edges there. Hold down control, deselect the outer edges there. Make sure you don't have any other ones. There you go. And then now from a top view again, let's get the scale tool and scale that out. So we can make it more rounded by adding just more loops in there. Now they look pretty comparable to each other. All right, one final thing I can do is a lot of Lego pieces have some beveled edges to them, so I can take either one and I can go around and let's select the edge loops all the way around horizontally, and then the vertical edge lines. Maybe we'll even do that inside edge loop there. There you go. That'd be good for now. And I want to do bevel. So with the bevel tool, that will round off the corner. So if I select all those edge loops, and it's important to make sure you have full edge loops. And if I do bevel, that will bevel that edge all the way around. Now if you leave the segment at 1, then we have a triangular bevel on the corners. But if you change the segment to 2, it will keep everything with 4-sided polygons, increments of 2. So if I do 4, I'll do quads there as well. We just need 2 for right now because it's going to be a small bevel. You can change the fraction to something much larger, 1.5, something much smaller, 0.2. I think 0.2 is pretty good. Gets the rounded corner that we want without being too crazy. So we can turn off our wireframe and see what that looks like when we start to duplicate that. So beveling's really nice for creating more natural looking edges that are machined or man-made. So if I click this object and hit Control D and then hold down the X key to snap this a couple of times. There you go. We can see the definition between each brick because of that bevel. And that's what kind of makes a Lego brick look more believable. Alright, so those are the two methods. Subtractive method with Boolean. And this video talked about additive method with extrude, move, rotate, and scale. We also talked about the connect tool and the bevel tool to add more detail. So that'll wrap up this video on how to model a simple Lego piece.